Welcome to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack. Hello, everyone. The idea of Black History Month was originally proposed by Carter G. Woodson in 1926, and President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month in 1976. Ford called upon Americans to, quote, seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. But is a month long enough? And was the month created to appease us so we wouldn't focus on the continued injustices we face in legislation? Let's get down to business. The business of being Black is Black History Month. Please welcome Associate Professor of History at Ohio State University, Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries. Hi, Dr. Hassan.
Hey, it's great to be with you.
Associate Professor of Africana Studies at Stony Brook University, Dr. Zebulon Maletsky. Hi, Dr. Maletsky.
Hi, Tammi. Good to be here.
Professor and author Dr. Elwood Watson is here. Hi, Dr. Watson.
How are you?
And Social Services and Disability Specialist Derek Miller is on deck. Why should Black people care about Black History Month? Dr. Zebulon.
Well, when you think about it, this has become an annual kind of conversation. Every year, people are asked that same question, well, shouldn't Black History Month be all year? Or why do we only celebrate it for a year? It's a tradition that goes back over, years and decades. And it starts with the dream of one man, Carter G. Woodson.
Yeah, Derek.
Black History Month is patronized because it separates Black history from American history. And it's the same as all around American history. It's like saying, you can have your month, but let's get back to the real, to the real history of schools and 11 months. We have a lot to do. And I think there's this false perception that exists that says that Black people are not equal to all American. Black history is not equal as well. And so I think what we need to do is separate the Black History Month, and it is being patronized.
Dr. Jeffries, your thoughts. Why should Black people care about Black History Month?
Well, Black History Month is a time to shine a light on the unique experiences of African Americans, not only about the contributions that they've made to this country, but a time for reflection, for celebration, as well as commemoration. It is a point of entry. It is not the beginning. It is not the end. It is a point of entry for a deeper, more substantive dive into the Black experience. And there's a lot for us to still learn, not just to get together and to celebrate, but to learn and for others to learn. A moment of focus is how I like to think of it, a jumping off point, a diving in point. And so I think it still has a very strong resonance and important purpose with us today.
Mr. Watson.
Yes, I concur with Dr. Jeffries. I think Black History Month is African Americans, people of African descent have had a very, very unique and distinctive history in the United States of America. And it is nothing wrong with focusing specifically on a month to address those issues. That being said, certainly, yes, Black History Month, Black history needs to be talked about and all throughout the year. But I think, we can learn and commemorate and celebrate from each other because Americans in general are horribly ignorant of history. And I think we need to know our history and who we are and and the contributions we have made to society. So I see nothing wrong with having a specific month that heightens the celebrations of people of African descent. But yes, we certainly need to be celebrating Black history and remembering it year round.
When you say Americans don't know much about history, are you referring to American history in totality or just Black history?
I don't know American history in totality, but especially Black history.
Yeah. It's funny how people can rattle off all of America's history. And then when you ask who Carter G. Woodson is, they're like, who?
Right.
I always find that interesting when I'm talking to my friends. I'll put it that way. Okay, Dr. Zebulon, let's talk about why this month was created, keeping in mind that it wasn't actually a month that it started.
Yeah. This was originally started as Negro History Week, would have been how it was referred to back then, 1926. And I mentioned earlier, it started with the dream of one man because Carter G. Woodson had attended some celebrations and noticed that people were, celebrating around Abraham Lincoln's birthday. They were also celebrating around Frederick Douglass's birthday. Frederick Douglass didn't know his birthday, chose February 14th as his birthday. And because so all of those things rolling around the same month and a celebration of presidents and American history, it gave him the idea, the inspiration that this could be a way, maybe this could be a way to get Americans to understand African American history, to appreciate it, and maybe even appreciate African American folk in the country, if that makes sense. Just not only their contributions, but their role as Americans. And so I think that's kind of what it's about, and that struggle lives on. That's how it started, and that's how it's still going today.
So let's continue on that vein of appreciating African Americans. Does Black History Month set us back, or does it actually help us to progress? And I'll give that to you, Dr. Jeffries.
Oh, it definitely helps us to move forward. I mean, but we have to be realistic in the sense that just shining a lot of drawing attention to the African American experience on terms that African Americans themselves are establishing is critically important. It's not a setback in the sense that it's sort of exclusionary in some sort of 21st century segregation Jim Crow way. It's hardly that at all. It's a time for people to pause and recognize, right? That let's learn a little something about the Black experience, about African American sacrifice, African American struggle, and African American contributions to building this nation, not just in terms of a handful of inventors or dancers or singers, but in creating an American democracy that, short of the Black contribution and the Black struggle and the Black sacrifice, wouldn't exist in the way in which it exists today, as fragile as it is. And so it's now, and having said that, you are always going to have those who were fundamentally opposed to it in the first place. And they say, well, why do you have Black History Month? Well, why do you have a show called Blackish? I mean, you see these arguments, right, from some who will come at it from that angle. And that's fundamentally ridiculous. There's no reason. There's enough room on the calendar for everybody. And there's no reason why we can't set a time aside, just as you set a time aside for your birthday to celebrate and keep living afterward, that we set aside the time to recognize what Black folk are doing and contributing to make this nation what it is, and then expand from there going forward for the rest of the year.
Dr. Watson, I have to say, Black people have always been looked upon as the inferior race. But when you start calculating the accomplishments of Blacks in history, and in particularly the history of America, you find that we're not really inferior at all. You look at things like the light post, or you look at things like, there are so many examples of Black people making achievements in America and contributing to the America that it is today, right? So would Black History Month help us to progress, or does it move us backwards?
Oh, no, absolutely helps us progress. I mean, yeah, when you talk about inventions, well, first of all, let me back up. I never had to realize that Black people were inferior. So I always knew we were exceptional. So that was no road to Damascus experience for me. Okay, so they didn't have to tell me that at all. But and I had parents and relatives and others who certainly reinforced those views within me. Now that out the way. Secondly, yes, I think it's very, very important. I think it does move us forward in that it shows us how the contributions, Granville, Carter G. Woodson, but certainly George Washington Carver, the Peanut. I mean, there's so many other things, that certainly, Dr. Charles Drew, blood plasma. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I mean, there are definitely a number of Black people who contributed tremendously to our society.
And much like Dr. Jeffrey says, that aren't athletes or entertainers.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely. So yes, I think, certainly studying and looking at the specific contributions and also the larger, broader contributions of people of African descent, of Black people in this nation, certainly can do nothing but propel us forward.
Yes. Derek, how do you feel about Black History Month? Does it set us back or does it move us forward?
Well, it definitely moves us forward, but there's a part of it that moves us back. And that's having to relive some of the atrocities that happened to us during those times. I mean, we got to look forward and move forward and look at what are we doing today, what accomplishments we're making today, how is these accomplishments affecting our community, and moving forward with that. And I think that's what we have to really focus on today. I believe in Black History Month. We all stand on the shoulders of those who went before us. So we appreciate all that. But as we look forward, we really have to ask the question, is Black History Month patronizing us? Is it patronizing? Is it really giving us what we want as we move forward?
That's a great question, and we're going to answer it when we return on Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack on Fox Soul. We'll be back, y'all. Welcome back to the Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. And the business of being Black today is Black History Month. Please welcome Associate Professor of History at Ohio State University, Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries, Associate Professor of Africana Studies at Stony Brook University, Dr. Zebulon Maletsky, Professor and author, Dr. Elwood Watson, and Social Services and Disabilities Specialist, Derek Miller. Thank you for joining us. Okay. On the topic, I'm going to you, Dr. Zebulon. Bath and Body Works received backlash online for having a Celebrate Black History Month section with African-themed designs. When Derek was talking about, Black History Month not being used to patronize Black people, or to patronize Black people. Is this an example of that? How do you feel about a white-owned company trying to capitalize off Black history by selling Black-themed merchandise? I have to add that Bath and Body Works also contributed $500,000 to the National Urban League.
Yeah, well, I mean, haven't people called in the past for corporations and American companies to do things like that, to make a contribution or to at least try? I don't, I'd have to know who the suppliers are. They Black-owned suppliers? That could be positive. Putting that in a major store, major like chain store like that, and a Black-owned supplier could be a game changer economically. But short of that, I mean, I can understand. I mean, some people might find that to be patronizing in terms of as an insult to one's dignity and integrity. And that part, I can understand. But patronizing means to when you kind of like lower yourself, or that somebody's doing you a favor, by doing something. There's nothing about Black History Month that was given to us. Black History Month was built brick by brick by Black thinkers, leaders, and organizers, and just humble teachers and librarians. And so the fact that, a corporation may want to try to celebrate that, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but what's the intent, and is it actually building economic, wealth in the Black community?
And I think that's the problem with what we are fighting for today. We appreciate the sentiments, right? We appreciate the Africana themed Bath and Body Works bubbles, right?
Forgive me. Good idea. No, just kidding.
We appreciate that. But like you suggested, who were your suppliers? Did you seek out Black suppliers and Black-owned companies to maybe design the scents for Black History Month? Did you get some Black people who deal in perfumes and scents and things of that nature? I think that's what we're asking for now. This argument came a few months ago when they changed Aunt Jemima the Aunt Jemima pancake box to the original maker, which is Pearl Milling Company, and then they took Uncle Ben's off of the Uncle Ben. And so Black people are saying, no, you're seeing this all wrong. We're not asking that you remove us. We're asking that you include us in the financial uptick of your company, of America. That's what we're really asking for. Dr. Jeffries, yes, no, maybe so?
Yeah, but I think it's a combination, right? In the sense that some symbols do need to be removed. I mean, stereotypes and marketing branding that's rooted in Jim Crow minstrelsy doesn't have a place in 21st century America. But it is not enough simply to remove the vestiges of Jim Crow without changing the substance of the engagement within the African American community. So in that sense, Tammi, I think you're absolutely right. It isn't just whether we're talking about Bath and Body Works or any company or corporation. It has to push beyond the mere symbolism to the substance. Are you bringing in and inviting in people of color and African Americans in particular to help remake and reimagine the company? It's not enough just to sell us your products. It is important that we be part of the economic building of that business. So yeah, the symbols are important. Removing symbols, these last vestiges, is critically important. But you're absolutely right. It is about the substance of the company and the corporation and moving in a more inclusive direction and empowering not only Black consumers, but also Black decision makers within the company itself.
Yeah. Dr. Watson, how do you feel about that?
Excuse me. Yes, absolutely. I actually have written an article about this back in 2020 that discussed, and that's also an essay in my book on Keeping It Real, Essays on Race in Contemporary America by University of Chicago Press. I talk about, let's not get too wrapped up in symbolism as opposed to substance. I talk about, yes, I do think it was good for them to change the Aunt Jemima name and Uncle Ben's. I mean, Jemima's pancakes and Ben's rice will do just fine. Okay, so we don't need to head there. That being said, we need to also realize too, Bed and Bath and Beyond can certainly have internships. Maybe it's to start, maybe have internships for young Black college kids to getting in there. These corporations, when they give out money, donate money to these organizations, which is good. That's pennies for what some of these corporations make. They can certainly, I think, provide internships, move into communities and, from K through 12. Those are the things, the substance, as Dr. Jeffrey was saying, let's get more concerned about the substance of situations and the symbolism. We know the power of symbols. Yes, symbols can be important, but let's not get too wrapped up in symbols, because symbols alone are not going to necessarily progress people forward alone. For example, when people get complained about a statue being moved downtown or whatever, yes, some statues definitely need to be moved downtown. I would not want to see a Ku Klux Klan or a statue of a vehement white supremacist or a swastika downtown in the middle of the square. All right, I said, no, that does not need to be there. It needs to be in a museum so people can know the history of it. I don't want to totally erase it, but it doesn't need to be downtown. That being said, once that statue is removed, when people are protesting, for weeks on end about that statue being removed or whatever, okay, everything's back to normal. Okay, but then what has really been accomplished? I mean, you've got that statue removed, but you still have not really progressed forward in other ways that really are going to probably affect your livelihood more.
Right.
As Ozzie Davis said it best, we as people don't have permanent friends or enemies. We have permanent interest, and I think we have to be very careful about worrying so much about symbolism as opposed to it at the expense of substance.
Derek, your thoughts on Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, and the Confederate statues and the symbolism of it all?
Yeah, and I agree with Doctor that yes, those are symbols that we need. There's some things we need to keep in place. Like I agree, we shouldn't have taken the picture, taken Aunt Jemima off the pancake thing. That that's okay, but there's a lot of things going forward that says, hey, these things can't be, and we need to be looking at, ways in which we do it. I read, Dr. Watson, I read in your essay, Keeping It Real, where you said that Black history is not some entity that should be confined to 1 month. It's something that should be considered throughout the year, and it's disrespectful when we do that. So when we start looking at how we want to see our history being taught and being seen, it has to be something that's longevity, not just in a month situation, but we see it every month, just like every year, in every aspect of our society, like we see any other culture's history.
Interesting. We're talking about brands and them celebrating during Black History Month. McDonald's is a brand that has this whole theme, Black 365, which insinuates and implies that they celebrate Black history 365 days of a year. There's a question that I want to definitely ask you, Dr. Zebulon. We probably won't get to answer it until after the break, but I want to talk about the kente cloth theme when it comes to Black History Month. I'm wrapped in kente cloth right now on this show, and so are all of you. And when we talk about Bath and Body Works, these themed scents are wrapped in the African kente cloth type of fabric material. So I want to talk about how that equals to American Black history when we come back on The Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack on Fox Soul. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack, and today the Business of Being Black is none other than Black History Month. Dr. Zebulon, I got to know how this kente cloth gets wrapped all around American Black history. Are they one and the same, or are they two separate things? I mean, I understand that Blacks were brought over from Africa, Africans, I should say, were brought over from Africa to what would be America to help build this land that we've yet to be paid for building. Need I slide that in there? However, when it comes to the kente cloth, for some reason, white-owned companies feel like this is a representation of what Black people want when we want to be acknowledged, in particularly Black History Month. And after George Floyd lost his life and was murdered at the hands of police, I think it was Congress that had kente cloth scarves on to show, to honor George Floyd. And now we talk about Bath and Body Works, whose products have kente cloth bottles. So how do we make the two become one when we talk about Black History Month?
Yeah. I think that's right there is what you just said. That's where we're dwelling right there, that middle place, where the two things begin to merge. And that's important because it shows some of the contradictions. It shows, unfortunately, some of the inner conflict and the dilemma of being both Black and American, and being Black in America and African American, and just even how Africa itself is seen. Kente cloth is from Ghana. It's an African thing that African Americans have adopted themselves. And I think that means that people probably need to maybe ask permission, or even show more.
Who do you ask? Who do you ask?
Or just before they, no, because it's bad optics. It's bad optics, and it's and some of my mentors would say it's just bad. It's bad politics, because although it probably comes from a good place, it probably came from a place, unintentional, and so on. But that happens all the time. And what was I trying to say about that? I just think that, Du Bois talked about the double consciousness, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. And African Americans are always aware of their two-ness, their duality in this country. And so the example you're giving is a perfect example of that. Does Bath and Body Works, have or Bed Bath and Beyond or Target or any of these corporations have the right to, not the right, but is it the right look, and is it the right optics, and is it showing enough respect to just co-opt that very powerful image and what it means to Black folk. And see, that's a sensitive point right there.
Yeah.
To me, it's not so much whether it's right or not, but I understand why a lot of people, a lot of Black folks especially, might not feel good about it, because so many things have been taken, haven't they? So many things have been co-opted. Everything that Black people do ends up being commodified in a way that doesn't necessarily bring dollars back to Black America. So I, as I said before, if it's something like that, maybe we've learned our lesson this time around. It's 2022.
Well, what I would like to see, honestly, let's go with this Bath and Body Works thing. I would like to see on the bottles, as a woman who shops there, as a Black woman who shops there frequently, I would like to see on those bottles for Black History Month, Black women who we don't know about. Black women who have helped America to progress, because in my eye, that is what Black history is about. It's about the accomplishments and the achievements and that Black people have made throughout American history, but also what they've given to America. And there are so many people outside of Rosa Parks, outside of Madam C.J. Walker, that the rest of the world, let alone America, don't know about. And I wish that they would have gone a step above, done a little research, and actually put those faces on those bottles with a little note on the back that tells us what they've done. Dr. Jeffries?
Well, certainly nothing wrong with that. And any opportunity as an educator, and any educator will tell you, any opportunity to share a little bit of knowledge would be fantastic. I mean, that's another way, as you were saying, Tammy, of moving beyond the symbolism, taking an opportunity to share information, to let people know about some of these figures. I mean, along those lines, I mean, Mattel and Barbie just came out with it's
a special limited edition of dolls, and I love them.
Right, but Ida B. Wells, right? I mean, so here, but
Ida B. Wells, Rosa Parks, they have a few, yeah.
Right, but that raises the whole issue too of, I mean, look, we live in a capitalist society, right? Capitalist economy, right? And so these corporations, their number one goal is to make money. Now, the question I think for us is how do we in a capitalist society, because this is still where we are, how do we nudge corporations in a way that their commitment or interaction with us is coming from not just a profit incentive, but from an ethical position? And that's not easy. That's not easy to be done, and it may not be possible to be done. But it certainly is incumbent upon us to do our best to try to have a measure of accountability, and as you say, in this profit motive, have some ethical boundaries and some possibilities for doing some education in the process.
Yeah, I think that educating people, it gives Black people a different, it makes people view Black people in a different way. And I mean, by people, I mean other ethnicities view us in a different way, because they get to say, oh, a Black person did that. Oh, that's a Black person. And it gives you a different perspective of what it means to be Black. And it also moves us past the whole thug drug selling position, Derek, let's speak on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think what happens, we made this, it's all about money and making money. And what they have done is capitalize on our ethnic background and say, hey, let's make a kente cloth. Let's do these kind of things. And there is no education or history tied to it. So it's a business. But the other side is we as Black people are not necessarily calling them on the carpet about it. We don't see us saying, hey, wait a minute, hold it. Like you said, we don't see them saying, hey, hold it, give me some, where's this coming from? Who's benefiting from this? You gave $500,000 to who? Where did it go? Did it go to a black?
Well, it was the National Urban League. So,
well, yeah, that's true. That's the truth. That's true. That's correct. But there are other people who donate monies, and we don't know where they go. And I said we should, this is a business, and we should hold companies accountable on some level as to, what they're doing, how they're giving stuff to us, and what they're doing for the Black community.
Yeah. Dr. Watson, what on earth does the kente cloth have to do with Black History Month? I thought it was about the achievements of Blacks in America. How do we connect the two?
Well, first of all, I want to go back to that when the senators did that when Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and all the senators, the Democratic senators did this. I thought it was you talk about patronizing. That's exactly what that was. I mean, I thought that was even just
But someone told them to do that, and it had to have been somebody black. It had to have been. There's no way Nancy Pelosi was in a meeting
passing them out
and said, "I think we should wear kente cloths." Someone had to share that. Who was black?
Well, they gave him some bad advice, whoever that black person was. So it was, but I think that because it was really, really, to me, it was a very, very, patronizing situation. To me, I mean, first of all, let's get some laws passed, okay? Let's get some laws. Let's worry about getting things passed. Let's worry about police reform and those type of things, and worry about kneeling and all that, because that in itself, Congress they got more important things to do than go and do stage, and kneel down in kente cloth. Okay, so the last thing we need to see is a bunch of 75 and 80-year-old senators, white senators mostly, kneeling down in kente cloth. So that being said, that's almost surreal. Anyway, I would say, no, I think the point that's been made so far, some of these points have been very valid. Like with Mattel and these companies, the point is, as I said earlier, that's all in good, but or is this money, are these efforts trickling down into the black community larger? Like I said, are they producing scholarships for black kids to attend colleges, or maybe those type of things, internship opportunities for college students during the summer, or entry-level jobs for black Americans once they get out of college, where they're just potential to advance and stuff. I mean, are they putting money into these neighborhoods to basically revitalize these neighborhoods? I want to see the corporations move that money if they're committed to racial justice, as many.
We're going to move to a commercial break real quick, Dr. Watson. We'll be right back.
If they're committed to
Black with Tammi Mack on FOXSOUL. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack. Let's get down to business. The business of being Black today is Black History Month. Please welcome Associate Professor of History at Ohio State University, Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries, Associate Professor of Africana Studies at Stony Brook University, Dr. Zebulon Maletsky, Professor and author, Dr. Elwood Watson, and Social Services and Disability Specialist, Derek Miller is with us today. Derek, 39 Republican lawmakers led by Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell pushed back on President Joe Biden's proposal to teach more Black history in schools, in the United States schools, calling the proposal divisive. Is the fact that so many people are pushing for less Black history evidence that we need more of it?
Yes. And so we do. And that just goes to show how politics is looking at this and patronizing this whole system by putting us and blocking us into saying, okay, let's take it out of schools, or instead of looking at it as an opportunity to share more of our history, they want to take it away. And I think this is where we need to be standing up and saying, no, this is our history. It needs to be taught.
Dr. Jeffries, would it be enough to not have a Black History Month and just include Black history in American history?
Well, historically, we know that hasn't happened, and there's no indication, especially when we take the temperature of the nation right now and look at all these divisive measures and bills that are being passed, if there's any indication that it doing away with Black History Month would suddenly magically lead to the full incorporation of the Black experience, throughout the calendar year. And so I have no faith, and as you just pointed out, and was demonstrated by the minority party, Republican Party in the Senate, that I have no faith that there is any real genuine interest in treating the African American experience, or even the American experience, in a truthful and honest way, which just really underscores the importance of Black History Month. Of making sure that not just educators and individuals, but companies and corporations and the society as a whole says, no, we're going to pause and make sure y'all show some respect and understand what was done by Black folk for this nation. There's no getting away from that. And that's where the fight is. I mean, this is the same fight as Brother Zeb had pointed out. This was the dream of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, and he understood the importance of shining that spotlight because it was being ignored. And as long as you can ignore it, you can change what happened. And that is still the situation today.
Yeah, I'm always conflicted when it comes to certain heroes of Black history because I think of Martin Luther King Jr., obviously. That's the first civil rights leader that comes to mind when you think of Black history, when you think of the Black movement, when you think of civil rights. And I always seem to go back to, but y'all tried to kill him. So it's conflicting to me that
Tried to
he's
kill him, they killed him. What do you mean?
okay, that's true. That's true. Yeah, they
Even
did.
worse.
Yeah. And so it becomes conflicting to me how America can hail him as a hero in one breath and point to him as the shining example, but that same America who is still to this day in the Senate, in the House, most of them are still there. This is what I don't understand, that people don't realize. Most of the people who voted Martin Luther King Jr.'s day as a holiday down are still representing their states right now. So I'm conflicted when it comes to Black History Month. Should I be, Dr. Zebulon?
Well, you made some good You make some good points. You know, I mean, I think what we're seeing now, this animus toward Black History Month or any kind of negativity toward Black History Month, is evidence of its effectiveness. What we're seeing is an organized, well-funded, kind of strategy to discredit Black History Month, to discredit even the teaching of Black history. In fact, to make the teaching of Black history illegal in some places. That tells me we're doing something right. Black History Month has been powerful, and people say they would like it all year. But look at just even having this month, the shortest month of the year, mind you, and it's rankling so many different kind of people and ruffling feathers everywhere. Black History Month is a powerful thing, and because it's the original Black-owned, Black independently owned movement in order to bring about the knowledge of our people. Because when you don't have self-knowledge and when you do not have knowledge of your own accomplishments or the accomplishments of your people, it brings you down. You know what I mean? You don't feel self-esteem, you don't feel self-confident, and they know that, and that's why they're going after Black History Month. But I understand the frustration, and I could definitely see some of those questions that you're posing, about Martin Luther King in particular. Remember Stevie Wonder's song, the song we all love, Happy Birthday. That whole song is basically about, why won't you pass a law to make Martin Luther King's birthday a holiday? Because there was a lot of people who weren't ready to do that. That's a whole other thing.
They're still in Congress, Dr. Zebulon. Mitch McConnell was one. He's still in Congress.
Well, yeah, I know. I hear you. I mean, Dr. Jeffries pointed it out. This isn't just about celebrating Black History Month. This is about democracy. This is about a deeper, sort of trying to uplift what America could be. Remember, America said all men are created equal, but it couldn't live up to its own stated principles until Black folk came and other groups and pushed it to live up to those higher ideals that it stated. As King said, be true to what you put down on paper. And so
Derek,
America ought to be thanking Black folks. We can help them get to make this country what it
that's all I'm saying. We should be smiling. Everybody in America should be smiling. Black people are here. We're the reason the soil has been
Black
tilled.
History Month. Don't profit off Black History Month unless it's Black-owned.
Derek, are you as conflicted as I am about Black History Month?
I am totally conflicted, because we see it's almost like a Dr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde,
Yeah, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah.
Hyde, because we see one thing. Well, we're going to do this, but you end up doing that. You're promising that you're going to do something, you're not following through with it, and these politicians will show a face that says, "Hey, vote for me." Listen, President Biden said, "Listen, I'm gonna put a Black person, a Black female, in the Supreme Justice," right? So why you say that? You say that because you wanted our votes. You wanted us to be part of that. and now you're into a point you're kind of like almost backstepping a little bit, but it's because you getting pushback from the party body. You know what I'm saying? You say something one way, but then when it comes down to putting my grandma used to say the rubber hits the road. Now you're doing something different. So definitely.
So, Dr. Watson, we talk a lot of flack. I love America. It's a fantastic country to live in, and you can do and be anything. We give America a lot of flack for Black History Month being 27 days out of, 27 days out of the year. But honestly, it was Carter G. Woodson who said, I want it to be this week. And then President Ford said, hey, let's just have it the whole month of that same month of the week that you already had it in. So why do we blame America for Black History Month being 27 days?
Well, I mean, I guess that's something, I guess we, I don't know if people are blaming America. I think that, I think people are more concerned about the.
Well, we always say, yeah, you give us Black History Month, but you give it to us for the shortest month of the year. Well, nah, they didn't really give it to us the shortest month of the year. It was already there in that month.
Yeah, it was.
It was by a Black man.
Yeah, again, I think that goes back to, I think we, well, people, I think get them misdirected. I think, because I think we spend, again, the month, okay, baby, okay, if we want to change it to August, is that going to make it too much difference? No. Okay, let's change Black History Month to August. Instead of February, we'll make it August. Let's take a month that has 31 days instead of, 20, 20.
Right, let's make it December.
Let's make it one of 31, what is it, August and December and May. One of the months that have 31 days, we'll all be happy. Okay, but the longer months of the year, not when the 30 days and not when the 20 days.
Hold that thought, Dr. Watson. We'll be right back on Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack, and the business of being Black today is Black History Month. So what happens after these long February days of Black History Month, these long 28 days of Black History Month? What happens, Dr. Jeffries? Does the world just go back to ignoring Black people again?
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully at the end of February, as we move into March, we continue to the process of learning. I mean, Black History Month is not just a celebration, a time to sort of commemorate or mark the contributions, but it's a time for deeper understanding, deeper learning, not only of the past, but the ways in which the past informs the present and shapes the future. So as we move from February into month, as we change the focus a little bit, right, from African American history to women's history and the like, hopefully everyone takes a little bit with them into March, continues to study. The corporations and the companies don't certainly say, okay, now we're done with them, but they have learned something as well, partnered with new people, invested in new entities, so that the business of being Black, if you will, continues beyond February into the months ahead.
And I asked that question because earlier we were talking about Bath and Body Works with their kente cloth designed bottles. But then you have other companies like Target who will spotlight a Black owned business for Black History Month. Mm-hmm. But then the question becomes, will they continue to carry that item long after February has passed? Dr. Zebulon.
Yeah. Well, it's perfect. The business of being Black. This is the business of being Black. Where icons and symbols are, sort of utilized and so on, and it's I get why people may feel some type of way about it. I think that's the takeaway. Whether we agree or whether we all agree, because we would never all agree, but I get why people feel some way about it. Things have been stolen from Black people over history. Land has been stolen. Lives have been stolen. Ideas have been stolen. And the secret here is that, and America knows this, is that everything that's American, that's known in the world, comes from Black folks, right? The blues, jazz, hip hop, and rock and roll, all the American musical forms, they're all from Black people. And so when you say Black History Month or American history, or Black history is American history, and Blackness is American. Everything that's known about America in the world comes from either the hood, the community, or the Delta, or where Black folks are. You know, that's really important. And Carter G. Woodson understood that. People who started Black History Month understood that the nature of America is Black. It's rooted in Blackness. That's why 1619 Project, all these different things, we have to recenter our whole orientation when it comes to American history. But when I think when people say, well, it's a short month and we should be doing Black history all year, it's a veiled critique of Black History Month. And I get where the anger comes from, but I don't think it's necessarily productive. This is something that was established and built over time by Black hands, literally, and with blood, sweat, and tears. And so to tear it down so easily, the precious few small institutions that we have built is, to me, a little bit careless. But I get the feeling behind it. I get the anger behind it.
Yeah. Derek, Dr. Zebulon says that we should recenter our orientation. At this particular moment in American history, is Black History Month more important or less important, you think, Derek?
I think it's more important because, well, there's two parts of it. We have the history, and I think we all know that, without the history, we have nothing. But as we go forward, we need to make sure that we're highlighting marketing where we can to the things that we're doing today, so we can see accomplishments and highlight those accomplishments as it's happening in real time. Because a few more years from now, what we do now is going to be history. So
yeah, exactly. Speaking of highlighting those businesses, I want to highlight yours, Lifespan Services. Tell us a little bit about it.
Lifespan Service is an agency that focuses on work with individuals with disabilities. We support them in areas of employment, history, any type of things they might need to help them live independent lifestyles. And that's what we do in Lifespan Services.
Dr. Jeffries, Teaching Hard History, your podcast. Please let us know what's the hard history lessons over there at the podcast. We need you. Yeah.
There's a lot of hard history when we look back at the American past, and we're not just simply talking about the African American experience. It's usually those points of intersection where race and racism are foregrounded, and rather than confronting hard history directly, we tend to pretend as though the history didn't happen. We just make stuff up, or we try to rationalize evil away, whether we're talking about white folk enslaving Black folk and all this other stuff. And so it's incumbent upon us to confront the past directly so that we can learn from it, so that we can make sense of the present, and so that we can prepare children and students and young people to solve the problems that we have been unable to solve right now. And we can only do that by confronting those difficult aspects of our past and not pretending as though they didn't exist.
Right? And teaching
hard history.
Yeah,
that's it.
Elwood, Dr. Elwood, what can you tell us about your book, Keeping It Real: Essays on Race in Contemporary America?
Oh, yeah. Looks like Dr. Miller's already read it. Thank you. It's a book that looks at the various essays that from the Obama years to the Trump era, and it looks on issues that confront the Black community, and not just Blacks. There's essays in there on Roseanne Barr, Bill Maher when he used the N-word debate. We look at pretty much as an essay on R. Kelly. There's an essay on reparations. It looks in different categories: violence against Black bodies, resistance against President Obama, white backlash. There's several topics several sections that the book discusses, and it's 42 essays in all.
Yeah, those sound like you're teaching hard history over there too.
Yes.
Oh, you're keeping it real is teaching hard history for sure. Dr. Zebulon, tell us about the festival.
This month, all throughout the month of February, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, call ourselves ASALH, got a couple members on this conversation and hope to have a couple more, is going to be doing the Black History Month virtual festival all through the month. There are events happening in various weeks through the month, and the big one coming up is going to focus on Black bodies and looking at some of the things that have been talked about. The theme this year is Black health and wellness. And that's a theme that gets celebrated all throughout the year. So sometimes for people who might be worried about only 1 month, that theme will be all through the year. And we have a conference and all kinds of stuff to celebrate and focus for a minute on this crucial issue of health and wellness, especially in the times we're living through now. It's very relevant.
So I want you all, most of you on the panel are doctors, and Derek's certainly still a teacher. So I'm just going to ask, if someone should study a Black history figure, or a Black figure in history, who would that person be? Give us one name, everybody. We'll start with you, Dr. Watson.
Carter G. Woodson.
Okay. Dr. Jeffries.
Oh, Ella Baker, for sure. Veteran civil rights activist.
Okay. Dr. Zebulon, who am I taking home for homework tonight?
I'm going to go with Charles Chestnut, a writer and an author and a thinker who had a very interesting perspective and point of view on Blackness.
Derek, who you got?
I have our own Dr. Watson.
Dr. Watson, there it is.
Yes,
All
yes,
right,
yes.
coming up next, it's Hollywood Unlocked. That's it for Business of Being Black. Tammi Mack on Fox Soul. Bye, y'all.